All right. I just want to jump in and do a little review of my Diamondback Release 2. This is actually the 2015 model, so it's a few years old, but you're still able to buy this one new for around $2,000, and I'm sure they pop up once in a while for sale used. So I believe the MSRP was about $4,000, but they were closer to like $3,600 at REI or other shops. The first thing I really noticed on this was that the bottom bracket is very low compared to other bikes I've ridden. It took some getting used to. I caught my pedals on turns and roots and whatnot. And to go along with that lower bottom bracket, it has a pretty raked head tube angle. So that's really good for downhills, but it has its drawbacks for cornering and the ability to change your mind when you're in the middle of a line. I had to get used to sort of just like sticking to a line, and just if I was going towards a rock, I just have to, monster truck it instead of trying to, maneuver around it, because it wasn't as responsive as some of the other bikes I've ridden with a steeper head tube angle. You can order some offset bushings to give it a little bit higher ride height and a steeper head tube angle, but I just got used to it, and I actually like the way it rides now. So on the first ride, actually a friend of mine was visiting, and he took it out while I was at work, and the chain snapped right away on his first uphill. So I'm not sure if they just put like a weak chain on there or what, but he got that replaced, and I hadn't had to change it until that one got worn out. This bike has 27.5-inch wheels. For an all-mountain bike, I had planned on doing a lot of jumps, technical riding, and downhill with it. That's really what I wanted to go with, was 27.5, and I'm happy with that wheel size on this bike. These are the original rims. They came tubeless ready, and I swapped that over right away. I've really put these rims through a lot. There are tons of dents and chips and spots that I've had to bend back. But that being said, they've held up otherwise. They've stayed straight. They still hold air when running tubeless. But I definitely keep a tube with me, especially on those longer rides, just in case. The tires that were on here, they were Schwalbe tires. They were fine. I got good use out of them, but I recently switched to the Maxxis tires, the Minion in the front and the Aggressor in the back. And I'm really happy with that upgrade on this bike. So this comes with the 150 millimeter RockShox Pike RC fork. I haven't had any problems with this. It's been a good fork. It has the compression adjustment on the right side and the air filler on the left. I'm currently running 2 tokens in there for a little bit of a firmer ride, and I've recently swapped out for the larger air shaft in there, so I got a little bit more travel, which has been really a big improvement for riding downhill and enduro runs out in the mountains. For the rear shock, it has the RockShox Monarch RT3 Debonair shock. There was one time that actually the air had totally evacuated out of the shock. I still don't know what happened there, but that was quite a while ago, and I filled it back up, and it's been good since then. It has the lockout, open, and climb mode options. I'm constantly changing these on my longer rides to help with fatigue on the uphills, and obviously a softer ride on the downhills, which is, what it's meant for. The level link suspension setup feels actually really good to me. I've had a few people ask me if it feels weird, but it really doesn't. This bike feels really good on downhills. It feels even better on jumps, and the suspension, responds well going through rock gardens and things like that. I have had one issue with the suspension though, and that's that the bushings have come loose a few times. This was really just kind of annoying, but I greased them up and I tightened them back into place, and there wasn't really any actual damage. I just threw some Loctite in there, and they've stayed put since I've done that. I don't remember the grips that came with it. They were totally fine, just some lock-on grips, but once they got wore out, I swapped those out, and I have the death grips on there now. Okay, so the brakes. This is probably the bike's biggest weakness. It comes with the SRAM DB5 hydraulic brakes, and these are just known to fail after a year or so. What happens is the piston in the caliper is a little on the high side of its tolerance range, And so that, in combination with the oil and the heat, like in the summertime, the piston expands and it just causes the brakes to become mushy, and eventually they just lock up. I have heard that SRAM will send you a new piston that has the right tolerances, and that's under warranty. But I just went ahead and got the Shimano brakes, and I've been happy with those. For the drivetrain, it has the SRAM GX 2.1 11 speed. This is, again, something I haven't really had any problems with. It just gets a slight adjustment when I take it into the local shop for a tune-up. The derailleur gets beaten up pretty good when I'm out riding, but again, with just some intermittent adjustments, it's been totally fine. Nothing wrong with the shifter. That's all been totally good. The pedals are Diamondback DB4L, and I actually really like these pedals. Coming from a BMX background, definitely no stranger to slipping pedals, but I have not had a problem with these. I know a lot of people, that's kind of the first thing they do is swap out the pedals for something that they know that they're comfortable with, but if you ride flats, these ones are definitely worth leaving on and at least giving a shot. I'm not sure what dropper post this is, but that's been fine. I don't know how people ever rode without one of these, really. I would prefer one with an internal cable because I have had this one hang up a little bit on me, but it just hadn't been something I really wanted to spend the money on, so I've just been dealing with that when it comes up. The seat itself is very comfortable with some decent shorts. Even on the longer rides, it feels really good. It's a good seat. So there's a few parts I didn't really cover, but that's the gist of it. I have about 500 miles on this bike, and with a few upgrades, I'm very happy with it. It's a good option for an all-purpose bike. It's really perfect for downhills, responds great when riding bike park features. It does have its drawbacks on the really technical runs and tight turns, but not enough that I don't have a good time when I take it out on all the local cross-country trails in my area.